Hello everyone and welcome to one of the best games that was played in the UzChess Cup 2025. This one, however, not from the Master section. This is from the Challenger section featuring Nikolas Theodorou from Greece, or rather it's Nikolas Theodorou from Greece and Mukhiddin Madaminov also from Uzbekistan. And this is, I think, the 5th or 6th time we're featuring Nikolas on the channel. And if you guys are just tuning in now, you should check out all of the other games that he played. Because I imagine he's not being invited to the top tier events as he's currently 2613 rated, but I think, even next year he could already be 2700 as he's just incredibly strong and also just plays incredible chess. Just to watch, it is absolutely amazing. This could be one of his most aesthetically pleasing games that he ever played. Probably not, because I've covered some really crazy ones, but yeah, I mean, you have to see it to believe it. And he won the Challenger section without even going into tiebreaks. He won, solely with the classical section of the tournament. However, in this tournament in particular, there's no rule like you have like in Prague Chess Festival, where if you win the Challengers, or in Tata Steel, you win the Challengers, you are immediately invited and seeded into the next year's Masters edition. Here, there is no such rule. I imagine they are going for, mostly, popular grandmaster from India. They want local players from Uzbekistan, and then some guests, like in the Masters, we've had Rapport, Nepo, and Parha Maksudlu. But yeah, I would very much love to see him in the Master section next year. So, like I said, if you haven't seen his previous games, I will put all of them in the description below, because he has defeated some monsters in all the time formats. He defeated Rajabov. I think he spent like 2 minutes for the entire game to defeat Rajabov. He defeated Arjun. He defeated Fabiano Caruana. So incredibly strong, but even I haven't heard of him maybe prior to 2023. So yeah, let's check it out and see why this game caught my attention. And the only game that he lost in this tournament is to the great Vasily Ivanchuk, who finished a full point behind him in the standings. And I didn't cover any Ivanchuk games because I actually had no idea that this tournament had also a Challenger section. Maybe I heard about it at some point, I just forgot. And they also have the sort of the new stars section that, we have to watch out for. But yeah, we could also cover some games by Ivanchuk. I still haven't seen any of them, but if there are some nice ones, I will definitely show them. So a bit of a longer intro, but I just wanted to inform you guys on why I'm showing this game. And if you're not following Nikolas, you definitely should, because it's hard to describe his game. It's not Tal-like, but he somehow always finds a way, to perform these dazzling sacrifices. It's like, the best way to describe it is he finds lines where there is only one good move for him and for his opponent, and then whoever makes the mistake first loses, but the positions are just disgusting, as you'll see in this game. So let's dive straight into it. So Nikolas with white opens with pawn to d4. We have knight to f6, pawn to c4, we have pawn to e6, knight to c3, and d5. So a standard queen's gambit declined. We have c captures, the exchange variation, captures, and bishop to f4, pawn to c6, transposing into the semi-Slav. We have pawn to e3, bishop to f5, and knight to g to e2. We have queen to b6, going after the b2 pawn, and queen to d2, defending while also perhaps preparing castle's queen side. We have knight to e4, offering a trade of knights, attacking the queen. Knight captures, bishop captures. We have knight to c3, attacking and preparing to develop the bishop. Bishop to g6, bishop to g6, and pawn to h4. And this has all been played before, where black usually goes pawn to h6 or pawn to h5. Sometimes very rare bishop to f5, but here it's as if Mukhiddin Mamedov decided that there's no need for a loss of a tempo there. Let's just develop the knight. He played knight to d7, and it is now, as of move 11, that we have a completely new game. And I think we already covered a game also from this year. I think it was from the Prague Masters tournament where Nikolas defeated Mukhiddin Madaminov. We also covered that game, and it's also a crazy one. Will also be the first one of the links in the description below. So before this video, after this video, why not improve your Saturday or Sunday? It's Sunday today. No, Saturday. So knight d7 and pawn to h5, attacking the bishop. Okay, now we are in new territory. We have bishop to f5 and pawn to f3. Okay, preparing pawn to g4. So now h6, making room for the bishop on h7 and pawn to g4. I don't know if I mentioned this or have I mentioned it in the previous game that I've covered where he played against Mukhiddin. Mukhiddin got his Grandmaster's title last year. So as of 2024, he is a Grandmaster. We have bishop to h7 and bishop to d3. Okay, just nicely offering a trade of light square bishops. We have captures, and now bishop to e7. This is one of the lines. There are maybe 3 really juicy lines that I will show, but queen captures on b2 is the best move. It's the top move recommended by the engine, but it's to play it, you have to be either an engine or someone's uncle, because I will show you. Queen captures on b2, you're going to be faced with rook b1. Okay, queen g2, you attack the rook, no problem, rook h2. Queen captures on f3, and now queen to f5. And it's very, very difficult to find a good idea here for black. Obviously, you don't like rook captures on b7. So you can play b6. It's even the top move recommended by the engine. Rook f2 attacking the black queen, and now queen to h1 check. King e2 attacking the queen, and now queen to h4, and the white strikes with pawn to e4. Something like this, and you have to be ready for all of this. And having your queen on h4, playing 10 moves in a row with the queen. Okay, if you're ready for that, you can play queen captures on b2. But like I said, either an engine or someone's uncle. So here we have bishop to e7, preparing to castle king side. We have castles queen side, now also defending the b2 pawn, and queen back to d8. It makes sense. You're preparing to castle king side. You also want to have an eye on that, the g5 square. You don't want to see pawn to g5 on the board. King to b1, no attack without a prophylactic king b1. We have castles king side, and now knight to e2. And this is how you want to start the attack, definitely. You could strike with pawn to e4 right away, but this knight, it looks very, very good on f5, for example. So knight to e2. And rook to e8. We have knight to g3, and now knight to f8. Again, going for bishop to g5 seems like the way to go. You want to eliminate as many of white's attackers as you can, but after captures, you have to play h captures on g5, which still, white will be better, and it's very unnatural to do so. But if queen captures, which feels natural, then knight f5, and again, it's very, very hard to find a move for black that actually does something. For example, knight f8, immediately f4. And now if you capture, just rook g1, and that's it, you resign. So many, many ways for black to go wrong here. And this is, well, a huge problem when castling on opposite sides of the board. White is already attacking. White has the queen, the bishop, the rook is coming to g1, probably something gets sacrificed, and black still hasn't started the expansion on the queen side. So white has all the time in the world to prepare the attack. We have knight to f8. Knight to f5, and now knight to e6. Okay, the knight is beautifully placed here, defending the black king, putting pressure on the bishop, and now rook d to g1, where, okay, we have to ask ourselves, do we eliminate the bishop now? Problem is, if you do so, which is not a terrible move, after captures, white just has very nice support for g5. Whatever you play, it's a bishop f8, g5, and already this looks really bad. I mean, white has all of the pieces in the attack. The pawns are already destroying the black king's defenses, and all of your pieces are on the back rank. That doesn't look like the way to play chess, especially in modern times. So after rook d to g1, Mukhiddin played the best move that there possibly is. He played bishop to f6, and now you have to decide what to do. And I'm going to show you what Nikolas played, but also I'm going to show you what he could have played. He played pawn to g5. Again, a very human-like decision. Bishop captures on h6 is a top engine move, but sometimes the top engine move isn't really what you want to do against a human. Point being that after, let's say, bishop captures, g captures, and knight captures, okay, it's 2 pawns for a piece, plus you get all of these pawns in front of the black king. But after a very stubborn defense, like king g7, knight f5 check, and king h8, it's hard to figure out how to go for the attack here. Even with the best pawn to f4, preparing pawn to g5, black could again just decide to give up the piece to stop the attack. Knight g5, and after captures and captures, okay, white is definitely better, but, it's not at all clear. e3, also a lot of pressure there. The queen is coming into the game, so it would be very, very tricky. But after bishop to f6, pawn to g5 was played. not the engine's favorite, but for a human, very difficult to defend, as you'll see. Because in the game, h captures and g5 was played. And this is what I mean. So this is the last big line that we'll show, but I think the most crucial one in the game. Knight captures on g5, the engine just says, okay, 0, 0, 0. But that's the problem. If you just look at what the engine says, you're going to say, okay, this grandmaster played a lousy move. Of course, the other guy won. But I'm going to show you what you have to see in order to play knight g5. In order to play knight g5, you have to see after bishop captures and h captures and e4 that, okay, let's say d captures, f captures, that's all very standard, and c5, okay, you're putting pressure on d4. And now after h6, you have to see that after g6, you have to play h7 check, and now after king to h8, knight h6, threatening knight captures on f7 with check, you just capture on d4, and you don't care. And now you're still not out of the woods. Knight captures on f7 check, king g7, and now queen captures on d4, bishop captures on d4, and now just rook to f1. This is a great move because if you promote right away, then the rook on g1 will be hanging at the end of the line. But after rook to f1, you have to also see that it's fine to give up a piece. Or not a piece, you have to give up a rook. Rook captures on e4, h8 queen, you're going to capture the queen. Of course, rook captures, knight captures, and now the key is, yes, you are down a full rook, but the knight cannot be saved. That's the point. Because after rook f4, there's not a lot you can do here. You either trade, and then this rook is stuck guarding the knight because the knight has nowhere to go, or you move the rook and then just rook h4, and the knight will be captured regardless of what you play. If you go rook e7 with check, we just capture with the king. Or if you trade first, the rook captures, g captures, then black could even win this due to the two connected pass pawns on the king side. Even if you save the knight, rook to e8, g5, and those pawns are marching forward, black is now winning here. So this is what you have to see in order to play the so-called 0.00 move. And that's why it's very, very dangerous to just look at what the engine says. So h captures and g5 was played, which again feels a bit more natural. And now bishop to e5. And again, it seems like, okay, black stopped the attack. Bishop to e5, probably not the best move. But there's not all that much black can do here. If bishop captures, d captures, and let's say c5 or whatever, you can just go knight d6. And now after, okay, your rook is hanging, rook e7, queen to f5, and not a lot you can do here. f4 is coming, you're going to open up the king side, and the black king will get checkmated. So after bishop to e5, pawn to c5, attacking the center, pawn to f4. You have to open up lines in front of the black king, c captures on d4, e captures on d4, and now bishop captures on e5, f captures on e5, and queen to d7. Finally developing the queen, connecting the rooks, and it seems that black has survived the attack, but here comes queen to f3. Okay, what does queen to f3 do? Well, you one more move and you will see. We have rook to f8, and now the question is what to play here. Seems that even with 12 seconds on the clock, it wasn't enough for Nikolas to figure it out. He played the second best move, which is also almost practically impossible to defend. But just for fun, I'm going to show you why. He played knight to d6 here, which is just very, very strong. But knight captures and g7 wins on the spot. And it looks like a very silly move because the king can capture it, the knight can capture it, and also you can just ignore it. You can play knight captures on d4. So let's see what happens if you capture with the king. If you capture with the king, then queen f6 check, king h7, queen f5 with check. And now if you go king to h6, look at this, rook captures on g5. And you cannot capture with the knight as the queen on d7 would hang. So you're going to play rook to g8. Now look at this, rook g6 check. Disgusting. Just disgusting. F captures, H captures with check, king g7, rook to h7, checkmate. So that is what happens if after knight captures, you capture with the king. If you capture with the knight, okay, there's no queen f6 check. However, rook captures on g5. And now after whatever you play, let's say king h7, you unpin, pawn to h6, threatening to capture, and after knight d8, you again give up the rook. Rook to g7 with check. You, of course, cannot capture because you open up a discovery, and then the queen comes into the attack and checkmates the black king. But if you go king to h8, it also doesn't help. Look at this, queen d3, just threatening mate. And now you cannot play f5 as the queen on d7 would hang, so you have to capture the rook, and now h captures, king captures, and queen h7 is checkmate. The pawn prevents the king from escaping via the f6 square. So you cannot capture with the king, you cannot capture with the knight. How about knight captures on d4? Just go for a counterattack. Well, now queen e3, and okay, the knight is hanging, queen captures on g5 is coming. If knight e6, the problem is the knight on g7. You're just going to capture, and after captures, rook captures with check. King h8 or f7, for that matter, doesn't really do all that much. Rook to g6, and that's just it. If black defends, rook f7, you just triple up. Queen g5, and after, you cannot go a rook f8 because queen h6 check, and then after rook blocks, you're just going to pick up that rook. So rook to c8 or whatever, and then just rook g1, and now there's no defense. So you're getting checkmated. So a very nice move, but probably 12 minutes not enough to calculate it, and knight to d6 will do just fine. And the problem with knight to d6 is that, okay, with 6 minutes on the clock, f6 still, maybe puts up a fight, because after f6, okay, you can't really capture, the knight would hang. You would have to play queen captures on d5, and after rook a d8, queen e4, f5, you stop getting checkmated. But even after that, for example, g4, okay, you stop getting checkmated. There's no kingside attack, bursting on the black king, but the two connected pass pawns in the center will secure white the full point. So maybe at least give your opponent some more time to make a mistake. By playing knight captures on d4 here, it is now definitely over, but only if you play the only move that wins. And that's what I meant at the beginning of the video. So Nikolas sort of plays that almost always him and his opponent have only one move that does not lose the game. So have at it. Pause the video and win the game while I give you a couple of seconds. So I hope you're not thinking about queen to e3. The correct idea is queen to f2. It's the only move that wins the game. If you play queen e3 like we did in the other line, and it's very similar, now the knight is not on g7, it's on d6. So knight e6 actually defends this position. That would be a pretty big blunder. But after queen to f2, there is nothing black can do here. The knight on d4 is hanging, so you could go back knight to e6. Seems like, okay, it does the same thing, but not really. Now h6, and after pawn to g6, queen to f6. And look at this. It seems like, okay, what is white doing? We have a knight on e6 that cannot be dislodged. We're not getting checkmated. But I mean, that's just, that's only one of the reasons why I chose this game. If king h7, you're going to play knight f5. And again, you might be thinking, okay, what is white doing? Let's just, go for our own thing, queen to a4. And when I say queen to a4, that's not doing our own thing. That's surviving a little bit longer. That's it. Because now, look at this, queen g7 check. That's the point. The knight here nicely defends, and after you capture it, h captures on g7, opens up a nice check. The g7 pawn is defended, and if you go to g8, rook to h8, you get checkmated, so you have to give back the queen, but not just yet. First, we're going to capture the rook by bringing a knight into the game, so it comes with check, and after rook captures, now we pick up the queen, and white is just up a full rook. So amazing stuff. So knight to c6 was played instead of knight to e6, and now just rook captures on g5. Knight captures on e5, and here there are many moves you could play here, and I believe this is even the position from the thumbnail. But there's only one move that really makes the difference. So what do you think Nikolas played here? Knight to f5 is a fine move, but you don't become one of the favorites on this channel by playing moves like knight to f5. Nikolas played queen to f6. And okay, not all the way spectacular, as we know that the queen cannot be captured. So the queen is just beautifully positioned, prepared to checkmate and defend the knight. But that's not where the threat lies. The threat is not queen captures on g7, although probably you thought it was. Oh no, the threat is much more scarier. Knight to g6, the only defense that holds unless you find the only move that wins. And yeah, I mean, pause the video, find it. The only move that wins, h captures on g6. So if you found this and all of the other pause the video moments, you guys, I mean, you're just amazing players like Nikolas here. You would make Tal proud playing your games online and in person. And I mean, this is just next level. and he was in this position on move 33 that Mukhiddin Mamedov resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. So let's say we don't capture the queen. Let's say we just say, okay, we're not taking the queen. What's happening here? Well, it doesn't help. Queen captures on g6, threatens mate in 1, as the knight covers f7. So, okay, you're going to play rook f6. Say, okay, move the queen. We're going to capture the knight. Not so fast. Rook g to h5. Again, f7 is covered, and rook to h8 will be checkmate. It doesn't even help if you capture the knight, as the queen also covers the f7 square. So you capture the queen, rook h8 checkmate. You capture the knight, rook h8 checkmate. And if you go king to f8, you try running away. Well, now the final slap in the face, rook e5. You still don't care about the queen. You just take away all of the squares from the black king, and rook to h8 is now checkmate, and there is no defense. Whatever you play, rook to h8 comes with checkmate, or you play some silly moves like, give up the queen, but we're not going to cover those moves. So yeah, knight to g6. Look at this, h captures on g6, and here your opponent resigns the game. I mean, what a spectacular finish. So like I said, in the entire tournament, Nikolas went undefeated until facing Vasily Ivanchuk. He lost to Ivanchuk. We could also show that game if you guys would like. And then in the final round, he also defeated very, very strong Chinese grandmaster. And let me just check, was it with white or with black? Yeah, he defeated Makun with the black pieces in the final round to clinch first place, and that was, I mean, spectacular event by Nikolas. Like I said, there is no rule that forces them to invite him into the Masters section next year, but I mean, I hope you guys are convinced after seeing this. I would love to see him next year in the Masters. Maybe if he gets to like 26-35 or maybe 26-60, maybe they invite him. Would be awesome. If not, we're just gonna check out some other tournaments that he's playing. But like I said, if you enjoyed this game, check out all of the other games that we have by Nikolas on the channel. We'll put links in the description below. Like I said, by against Rajabov, against Caruana, against Arjun. Also another beautiful game against Mukhiddin Madaminov. So, like I said, why not improve your Saturday? That's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Felix Steinel, Seshadri Subramanian, Andrei Shrade, Johan Kron, and James Anderson for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day. And again, sorry for a bit of a longer intro, but it was needed. See you soon.